his constituents has got no capacity to implement whatever budget line has been allocated for this in next year's budget. And he did refer to the fact that it's just himself, the professional secretary or assistant, and then the messenger, and those three don't have the capacity to implement. Now, that statement has got the potential to derail correct thinking Zambians into believing that the member of parliament is the one who's responsible for administering a CDF, which is a very misleading statement in itself, and I think it needs to be corrected so that the people get the correct understanding of how CDF works. Yeah.
In correcting that, Mr. Mulunga rather, what does it make of, I know that the debate is emanating from the increment from 1.6 now to 25.7 million kwacha under the new donor administration.
Yes.
And you remember, I think in the past years, we've been hearing complaints coming from themselves, parliamentarians,
yes,
complaining that the money for the 1.6 million kwacha was not enough for them to exhaust all the developmental programs or projects that they have had in their areas.
Exactly.
And here the new UPND administration comes in and triples or doubles the amount. Somebody goes and begins to protest. You know, what are the disadvantages of maybe this money that has been given to these members of parliament?
Innocent, if you understand development and the levels of inequality and confusion and the level of poverty and ignorance that is in this country, you see it is a sin against the people that you represent to come on a public forum like this and protest and give excuses to the effect that I don't have people in the constituents that can manage this fund. I think for a very, very long time, I'll tell you myself, having been a councillor in the past 5 years in Mumbo District Council, Mumbo District Council was not receiving CDF from 2014 up to 2016. Partly because of the political rhetoric that was emanating from the PF's way of looking at national development, where they could not disburse money to constituencies that were held by the opposition. Okay? And when the money started coming, initially, the amount used to be 750,000 kwacha, which translates to something like $40,000. And I think this is where actually, if you listen to President HH's promises, where he said, look, there is no way we can develop with 40,000 kwacha. I'm going to increase this to $1 million. And I think instead of playing rhetoric like a young child who has been caught with sugar on their lips because they thought they could wipe it quickly by opening the door to the fridge, what Mr. Lusambo and his colleagues in the PF could do is to sit and apply themselves diligently to what has happened. Now, for me, really, this shows to say, look, I think as citizens, we got to learn to hold our leaders to accountable. So if President HH says, I'm going to increase the CDF to $1 million, and his first budget, actually, he is able to fulfill that. And he doesn't only fulfill the $1 million, which translates to the $15 million of that 25.7, he adds an additional amount of 10.7 million to take the entire quantum to 25.7 million. Now, for any, and I'm serious about this, for any decent, well-meaning member of parliament who is representing a rural constituency, believe you me, they should be celebrating. Except for probably members of parliament from the PF who are playing antiques, and joking around with people's lives, because even during their tenure, even that meager 750,000, which is $40,000, was not going, like I have just alluded to come here. No, it is insulting the intelligence of the Zambian people. And I think we should move into a situation where, as a country, when we have a politician who comes to start representing their self-aggrandizing interests like Mr. Lusambo was doing and his colleagues, there should be a movement in the authorization of a law which recalls such kind of members of parliament by the people, and by passing a vote of no confidence, because we struggle. We struggle. The whole reason why the president was talking about people lining up to want to go to DMMU is because of the perception that the people attached to DMMU. Roofs, you see today, I don't know how many times power has gone. There was a storm. Now you see, with these infrastructure schools that they built using corruption as one of the factors of building those infrastructure, they are so weak such that any little storm like this, the roofs will be blowing off. You understand? Because the bill of quantity was really undermined by the corruption that these colleagues were perpetuating. And you see that the roads, the culverts, everything is breaking down. And everybody had to go and line up at the DMMU. For you to start saying, no, that 25 million is not correct, is an insult to the people of this country. The question that we should be asking ourselves here is, where is the UPND government going to get the money to make sure that that 25.7 million is disbursed to the constituents? Because the people are suffering there. People are drinking water in the same well, together with animals. Okay, there's no boreholes. There's clinics that have been built. There's no employees. There are nurses and clinical officers to take care of them. Even if they build a clinic, World Vision will come and build a clinic. There's no nurses there. They are supplying rotten Panadol in there and all those things. So really, that 25 million is something. If that money is going to be released, that is going to be one of the panaceas of national development that this country has never seen, probably since we got independence. So for me, who comes from a rural setup, who understands that at Kamilambo Primary School, the pupil to teacher ratio on account of lack of teachers and classrooms is 130 pupils to one teacher, I should be dancing. And I'm indeed exuberant about that kind of development.
Right. The 25.6 million kwacha, it comes with another, proposed decentralization policy as well.
Yes.
Which I believe is something that we need to get adapted as a country, because remember, it's an issue where you need to have plans. All these projects proposals being made by the people themselves.
Exactly.
And then you submit your plan to the central government as well as the council for them to just look at what you have, and then from there finance these projects. It's not the money that is going to be given into the accounts or pockets of a member of parliament, in the case of Honorable Boman Lusambo. All right? But the question is, Mr. Mulunga, how ready our councils or our constituencies, ward level as well, in terms of having competent individuals that are capable to preside over these projects as well as disperse the monies accordingly?
Innocent, how are we going to know that the bucket is leaking if we don't pour water there to test if it is leaking? You get it?
Yeah.
So, for the past 12, 15 years, we've been pushing decentralization. Currently, we are using an output-based budgeting system, implying that the input comes from the bottom until it reaches the national level, and then you produce a summarized budget. However, our decentralization has been half done. So, whilst we are pushing for decentralization, which is basically a model of running governance where you take decision-making to the local level, on the other hand, the previous regime, we couldn't actualize full decentralization because the money with the account remained at the central government. And they were able to decide where they take that money. They would wait first to buy a councillor. If maybe a councillor, God forbid, passes away, then there's a by-election. That's when they'll go there. You used to hear statements like, you can't vote for the opposition because they're not in the government, they're not going to release the money. That is where it is coming from. Now, This particular mechanism, what it proposes to do is to actually fully decentralize the entire process. From the planning, remember the planning is starting from the zone. It comes to the ward, it goes to the constituency, and then the district, and then the province, and then the national, then you have the national development plan. You understand? So it literally therefore then follows that even the decision making in terms of where you spend the money, take it to the people like you have taken the planning aspect, fund them. Okay? So how are we going to know that we have the capacity? We have to take the money there. However, we don't want to take money into a leaking bucket because the effort achieved will be zero. What do? We have to tighten up. So it literally follows that we have to decentralize the Drug Enforcement Commission. We have to decentralize the Anti-Corruption Commission. We have to decentralize the Zambia Procurement Agents and its officers. We have to decentralize the Financial Intelligence Center. We have to decentralize the Auditor General so that we stop the bleeding that has been happening. Now remember that besides, even when we were still centralized in terms of money, everybody was lining up at the Ministry of Infrastructure and cooking and trafficking in all this corruption that was going on. Money was still leaking. And I think the best example that we can give here is the Financial Intelligence Center. The latest Auditor General's report, I think is speaking to the fact that 16 billion, if I'm not mistaken, was misapplied and misappropriated in the previous year. Contracts are being awarded to cronies and friends and relatives, advance payments paid, materials not delivered. That information is there in the Auditors General. So what do? When we take money like they are proposing to do in this instance, we have to make sure that we put up robust monitoring mechanisms to make sure that that money is not stolen. We have to make sure that the people that are sitting in these zonal development committees, in the ward development committees, are people that are astute and are able to understand and execute their functions properly. We have to change certain mechanisms. For example, a councillor now is going to be presiding over slightly on average 2 million to 5 million, depending on the constituency where you are. If each council maybe deploys the sharing of that money on an equal basis based on the number of wards that you have, certain constituencies have got only 7 wards. Certain constituencies have got 8 wards. So if you appropriate on an equal basis, you realize that probably each ward is going to be getting close to 2.5 million per annum for the next 5 years. Now, the structure that is looking after that money, the councillor, who is the development administrator in the ward, is getting paid 3,000 kwacha. 3,000 kwacha is equivalent, I think, to $500. You understand? So that structure makes the councillor susceptible to what? To corrupt activities. The ward development committee, the people in the ward development committee, they work on a voluntary basis. Yes, we understand it is their development. However, you have to incentivize them because they are going to be dealing with a lot of money. It's like somebody has given you a bag of groundnuts and then they tell you should never touch these groundnuts. Ultimately, what are you going to do? You are going to touch. You know, we have different human strengths. So for me, what we should then be looking at is to look, are we taking people who have the correct capacity? What are the councils doing to sensitize the communities to make sure that these communities elect people that have got integrity and capacity to serve in the ward development committees? Are we able to amend the laws to make sure that the people in the ward development committees are not working voluntary innocent? When I was a councillor, I was getting paid 3,000 kwacha in arrears. Okay, would go for 6 months without getting paid. But then I'll be required to go into my ward to discuss with the people to see what is going on. And the people that move those projects, that monitor, that give the reports, is supposed to be the ward executive committee. And the members of the ward executive committee are not paid not even 1 kwacha. You understand? Okay, later on their councillor, he or she doesn't even have an office. So when we are looking at decentralization like this, let's change the structure. Let's look at how can we build an office for the councillor, so that that becomes a full-time job. People should be able to know and walk to the councillor's office instead of going to their little hut. You understand? They should be given a professional assistant who is able to document and produce reports for the purposes of monitoring and evaluating and coming up with learning lessons. You understand? So if we are still going to have ward development committees that are managed by volunteers, it means we can't even attract the correct human resource to sit on that WDC. Then that is going to be a challenge to what? To implementing that huge amount of money that has been allocated. If the councillor is still being paid 3,000 kwacha, when the responsibility of the councillor is probably 5-10 times that of the member of parliament. The member of parliament today is walking away from the National Assembly after 5 years with a gratuity of 1 million plus. Every day when they sit to make laws, they are getting 1,500 kwacha as a sitting in allowance. But they only have one function. One. The function of a member of parliament is just to go to the National Assembly, debate laws as being dictated by the people, and pass those laws. That's the only thing. But look at the disparity. A member of parliament today who's a minister, when you combine their allowances, their gross is close to 100,000 kwacha. Okay? They are netting close to 50,000-60,000 every month. The councillor who is supervising the council and approving the council budget and approving the CDF is getting 3,000 kwacha. You can't achieve development like that. So for me, these are the things that we need to start talking about. Okay? The local government commission, it is a moribund institution. It needs to be overhauled because there is so much nepotism and tribalism and incompetence in that institution, such that the only thing that they do is to employ their relatives and pack the council with relatives. Every quarter when you go and sit as a council, you are receiving somebody who's being transferred from Kaputa to Mumbwa, Mumbwa to Mitete, Mitete to Mapatizia. You can't operate like that. You understand? So those are the institutions that we should be overhauling, so that the council begin to attract the correct engineers, the correct planners, the correct administrators, the correct accountants, the correct auditors to provide the necessary administrative support that is required to roll out this type of development. Right. Believe you me, those members of parliament that are coming here to tell you that they are not happy, they are lying. You know, they are lying. This is serious, innocent. Right. Yeah.
I'm prompted to ask you this question, although I'm sure it must be, maybe we need to spare it, because the issue of a councillor getting paid salary and the likes, it can be a very long debate altogether. Reason being that
it shouldn't be.
In the old days, if you remember very well, civic leader was more like a volunteer. You know, civic leadership was more like just a volunteer person who offers himself or herself to work for the people.
That's the essence of leadership.
Yes, but we seem to be compromising this leadership, civic leadership that we're talking about, because now somebody is going to vie to be a councillor. Reason being that they want to be getting paid. They want to have a huge salary just because Mr. Jones Mulunga is advocating to maybe attach an increment to...
No, we shouldn't look at it like that.
Right.
So public service is servant service. You offer yourself to save the people because you have a particular competence that the community will benefit from. However, in public service, once you volunteer your time like that, the community also reciprocates. So the community maybe will say, okay, you know what, we are going to build you an office. Exactly. So you should be coming to work, so that as we are forming cooperatives, we are consulting you, you teach us how to create cooperatives, how to do corporate governance, but here is an office. So when we need you, we should find you at this office. I volunteer my 2 hours. When I come to that office that has been provided by the community, then everything moves better. That's why you see that President HH has been saying, look, I don't need the salary when I go in government. Why? Because as a president, we give him top-notch security so that he can think at a correct speed. You understand? We book a plane for him. We put him in State House. We give him workers to work. Now, that is commensurate to what he is doing. Okay, now, as a councillor, what are your duties? You are leading the community in actualizing development so that you can improve the social welfare of the people. So it just follows that when you are leading the people like that, at least even the people can offer you a glass of water. You understand? Yeah. That's why you see that the members of parliament, because we have given them a very huge responsibility of creating laws and approving laws that we want to use to govern ourselves. We pay them the 1,500 every day when they go to the National Assembly. We accommodate them at the what? At the National Assembly motel. They don't pay. Their beer is even subsidized. You understand? But then, that kind of service enjoyment should also be extended to the councillor, because a councillor has got serious work, my brother. I would tell you that
just from there, why can't we change the debate altogether? Instead of advocating for a councillor to be getting huge sums of money, why can't we say, let's reduce the amount
of the money that the MPs are getting?
Yes, exactly.
Now that is correct.
Debate altogether.
Now that is actually
as well
correct.
As the allowances together.
Exactly.
Like I told you, remember that in the old days, I was old enough.
Exactly.
By the way, that
exactly.
What the councillors were actually even using bicycles.
Exactly.
Walking on foot.
Exactly.
To offer that service.
Now you are getting it.
Yeah.
You understand? Now you are getting it. The system, as it is now, it is rigged, if you can allow me to use that term. Right. In that, if you look at what the councillor does, compared to what the member of parliament does, my friend, the councillor has got more work. The councillor has got more people that are knocking on his door in terms of barriers, children that are being molested, children that haven't gone to school, people that have been fighting, the tooth has been knocked out, the neighborhood watch and all those things, versus a member of parliament whose responsibility is just to come and sit in the National Assembly and enact laws and do the here thing. You understand? So for me, actually, what we should be saying is, let us reduce the conditions of service for the MPs to go and give the council. But here is a poor council who is riding a bicycle 50 kilometers to go to the council to go and approve a budget that is responsible for ensuring that there is a nurse at a health clinic, there is a school, there is a teacher. There is people that are modding blocks to put a 1x2 classroom block. You are giving him 3,000 kwacha. It is not correct. That's why you see that even the caliber of people that go and contest as councillors is very low. Because the incentive, if I offer myself to work, the environment that you create for me to work is very poor. Now, given that we have 25 million that is going in the constituents, where there are 9 councillors, and their responsibility is to actually preside over the council. You understand? The councillors are responsible for presiding. They approve every expenditure that is done by the district council. It is those local councillors that do that. Right. That is tedious work. It's too much tedious work compared to what the members of parliament are doing in the National Assembly. But we apply, the magnitude to the given a particular office. And all I'm saying is that you cannot have a councillor who is presiding over a ward development fund. In the ward account, there is 2 million kwacha. And this councillor, for him to go and round up the people in the WDC, he has to use his fuel. And to that meeting where he's coming, he has to use his money to buy the meat, to kill the goat so that the WDC people can come and sit. It won't work properly. You are creating an environment for corruption. You understand? So these are the things that we need to look at. Remember, the president is saying local procurement will have to happen at the district. So it therefore follows that a school that is being built in Kamilambo, the first line of procuring the bricklayers to build that school should come from where? Kamilambo. You understand? But then, what capacity is in Kamilambo? The cooperative in Kamilambo, what capacities has it got? Do they understand corporate governance? Do they understand financial record keeping? You understand? Those are the things that we should be talking about.
Right. I know we are getting to another program, Mr. Mulunga, but let me just squeeze in a few questions within maybe 5 minutes or so,
sure.
If we will be allowed by my director.
Please.
When you talk about decentralization for me, I think, I took time to think through because it appears now that almost all the projects and the planning will be done at, by the people themselves, by the constituents.
That is what has been happening all along, actually.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, the issue is, don't you think that this will also make, parliamentarians, or should I say politicians, irrelevant somehow when it comes to campaigning? Because remember, each time I hope you get the sense.
I get the gist.
Exactly.
Yes.
Where a member of parliament or an aspirant, he or she stands on the platform, on the pulpit,
I'm going to bring you a
and he tells you, I'm going to build a bridge here.
Which is a total lie.
He or she tells you that I'm going to bring a school here and the likes. And yet we've been told here that government wants to ensure that almost everything is done by the people themselves. What are the members of parliament going to talk about next?
Their job. They've got a very well-defined job description. As a member of parliament, go to the National Assembly, make laws, pass the budget, which is the expenditure framework law for doing what? For developing the nation. Take local development decisions to the local people. You can't be coming from the constituency to come to my ward and then come and tell me where we are supposed to put the deep tank. No. We, the local people in Mikondo village, we know which area. We can even take you to the dam that we feel can be turned into a dam for us to make a what? To make a dam for our animals to drink. So this is the best that can, decentralization brings about inclusivity in decision making. You understand? And that inclusivity in decision making creates equity. It brings around equity because the people will decide. And it is not rocket science, Innocent. The people in the wards, they know. Each village, they know exactly what they want. And they know where the borehole is supposed to be installed. They will even tell you the location where water is found, where you can sink the borehole. It is not the responsibility of the member of parliament to go and start telling the people how they are supposed to spend the CDF.
How would you craft your message if you went back
to the people
Mumba and recontest your seat as a councillor? How would you craft your message?
Wow, I'll tell you, my message will be about how we improve the decision making in as far as selecting projects and working together is concerned. Because I'll tell you that the people in the wards, they know which road needs to be graded. They know which school has got no houses for teachers. They know which area requires a clinic. And decentralization gives them that ability. So even when they are sending their project list or their budget through their councillor to the council or to the CDF, they are very succinct and clear. But the confusion has been coming in because the politician that we have in Zambia is really a corrupt politician who thrives on information asymmetry, where you deprive the people of the information. Probably this is why you see the information bill has not been passed up to now. So they will remove that information, then they will run with disinformation. And the disinformation I'm talking about is where you have a member of parliament who comes here and tells you that my people in Kavushi don't need the 25.7 million and there is no people in Kavushi.
That was actually 2 days after the budget was presented.
Passed. Now, that is the disinformation of a corrupt Zambian politician. You can see that they are corrupt. Even their thinking is so corrupt such that in Kavushi, there is Masala.
Right.
When you go to Masala, You will find there are people that I financed in Masala that have got hotels.
Right.
When I was working in the bank, they got overdrafts, they built hotels in Masala, and those hotels are thriving today. What does it show you? That those people are intelligent. There's Lubuto Secondary School in Masala, which has produced even the presidential spokesperson. You understand?
Yeah.
Now, because of the corruption and the corrupt politicians that we have, you can actually have a politician coming here to convince you that I have no capacity to implement CDF.
By the way, the budget has been analyzed according to the PF, and the outcomes are very clear.
Yes.
That budget is a hoax. That's according to Honorable Given. Less than a minute, we need to go. Just 15 seconds.
No, you see, Honorable Given Lovinda, I used to believe in him when I was in grade 12. I was in Chilenge, and he was working for the Norwegian aid, and then he became the first UPND member of parliament for Kabwata. He was still correct. Now I have taken him to be a joker 100%, and I think let us analyze the budget in context.
Right.
Let us look at what is able to work and how we can support the things that can work in that budget.
Right.
It is a fallacy. Yeah, it is political rhetoric, bitterness, and you know, all these jokes where somebody can come and say, look, that budget is a hoax.
All right, I'll invite you back.
Thank you.
Come
sir.
and finish our conversation.
You should.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so I've been talking to Mr. Jones Mulunga, CYLA Executive Director. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, join me as we, of course, have another program after this. Thank you so much. May God bless you.
Thank you.